Welcome back to O.R.B.I.T.S Consulting. My name is Manal Zainuddin, Global Education Consultant and founder of O.R.B.I.T.S Development Code, an approach for conscious learning and being. This podcast highlights education communities from macro and micro angles, leadership, learning, personal and professional growth across multiple disciplines. Education is holistic and as vast and infinite as the cosmos. As we bring stories, interviews, talks, projects from around this globe, I extend Plutarch's famous quote that I had posted in the schools I have worked in. The mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be kindled. Before I start today's episode, I have a quick announcement. After long thought, and because I needed a visual platform to host more resources, I have started just last week a YouTube channel, Manal Zainuddin O.R.B.I.T.S Consulting. It's a space to think together about learning and teaching issues. We all know that learning is the only purpose behind the concept of schools, which I prefer to call learning communities, because the concept of schools is globally limited to student and teacher, to books, to curricula and tests, and all that hinder discovery, innovation, building and fostering a conscious character. Real learning stems from what we call schools and the family, the role of the parents here. This means all disciplines are combined, curricular and extracurricular disciplines in a deep, unified framework. And that's what I refer to as transdisciplinary. It is from the inside out, not the outside in. It taps into our core, our essence. It is not only metacognitive, but also transcendental, for lack of a better word. It is our role as schools and families to appreciate the talents and capabilities that we have been blessed with, the most important of which are the ability to take responsibility and the ability to make conscious decisions. We have been going in circles. Now is the opportunity to tap into conscious learning, conscious being. And when we move towards this fourth industrial revolution, we can still tap into a deeper self, a higher self, a universal intelligence, a universal consciousness. Let's plant the seeds within our learning communities, what we know as schools, and families. We deserve to reach the best versions of ourselves, and it all starts with conscious learning and being. The visual media content goes under the following playlists, and some of them are actually still under construction. Learning in the 21st century, quality of teaching and learning, early education, conscious consulting, my participation in conferences, sustainable development, podcast episodes as well, world days, conscious leadership, and others as needed. It would be great if you check the channel out. I will leave the link in the description. So let's all foster conscious learning and being. This episode is part 3 of EduCOVID that I have been sending in my monthly newsletter and that has been documenting our global journey from the surge of COVID-19 until present. The past episodes 8 and 11 are parts 1 and 2 of the original series. The episode 8 is about accountability and episode 11 is about academic achievements and losses. I thought to share them on this podcast so that they may be some type of checklist or reflection for leaders and teachers as they plan for the next academic year 2021-2022. Please check episodes 8 and 11 if you haven't done that yet. And today I will be adding the third part of the series, alignment to curriculum and standards. As schools settled post-COVID, having handled the first waves of the turbulence, now they are all navigating with much better stability. I mean, we have current scope and sequence, current plans, current schedules, and all has been redefined to suit all those new challenges and changes. Now, there have been some advantages, such as redefining curriculum and instruction modes, and we all hope that that will eradicate traditional tedious learning. Economic conditions have posed drastic challenges upon all types of institutions. For example, in case of schools, school expenses, staff salaries, and general sustainability of school populations. So now here we are faced with what we call focus urgencies. It is important to remember the 5 elements of focus synergy that I have mentioned before, as schools plan to address the 5 areas of concern. The 5 areas of that focus synergy: smart understanding of the situation of the region where the school is, stakeholders collaboration, feedback loops, highly effective teachers, and flexibility. And as per O.R.B.I.T.S approach, it's essential to cover all those aspects related to important areas with a double effect. That's why we are calling it synergy. It is advisable that leaders keep these 5 areas very tightly combined and monitored as they plan for strategies to mend, strengthen, and foster growth in fast-changing times. We start right now with the alignment to school statement, and as we all know, school statement is the vision, mission, objectives, and values of a certain school, and there is no better time actually than now to keep eyes focused for the least disruptions. Now, school vision, mission, objectives, and values are like the North Star. They are guiding the school so that there are no diversions from the original path. Now, we know that schools have their identities. They have this unique character as well, and the school vision, mission, objectives, and values can keep these identities unique and can also keep schools on track. So during COVID disruptions, schools had to handle the emergencies of teaching and learning as well as health concerns of all stakeholders. They had to prioritize and sometimes they got off track. Now, we need to note here that school statement or vision, mission, objectives, and values differs from school to another. So the points that will be mentioned here now regarding this 3rd focus urgency alignment statement is general. There are more specifics as per each school so that it can be personalized in the self-evaluation that the school makes. So it's important that schools measure progress in order to know how to proceed. And that's, of course, using data analysis tools. When the school uses data analysis tools, and we mean here the right tools, a school can measure its alignment to its vision, mission, objectives, and values. For example, during our evaluations, we can ask such questions. Are there quality management processes being redefined and reframed to fit the new conditions? Now, we have already passed the turbulence stage, and now it's the stability stage, but we still need to move on. We are still curbing losses and we are still trying to fill gaps. So these are the new conditions. Are there any announcements or emerging practices that do not match with the school vision, mission, objectives, and values? Are there teams that are handling extensive knowledge that is necessary for the overall data analysis process that may not be available? Are there equity teams working within a system that can truly instantiate the school's statement of all learners, all stakeholders being engaged in all processes? Because the engagement of all stakeholders is essential. Are there professional learning networks or communities that schools are part of? Are there progress trackers to display the academic, digital, professional, and social emotional progress? And we cannot forget that we have stressed it so much before, and all educational bodies have stressed that now is the time to move forward. We cannot stay where we are. We have stabilized ourselves, but now we have to move forward. There must be some type of progress. Is there a cybersecurity system that is highly accountable for security of classes and consequently teachers and learners? Because even if we will go into in-person, we might still need hybrid learning at a certain time. We still need to be ready for any other emergency that would require teaching online or at least a hybrid or blended learning. Is the school ensuring the safety and mental health of teachers, especially those returning in person? And we know that most of the countries now, if not all, will be returning in person next year. Is the school ensuring the safety of learners, especially regarding the debates of 3 to 6 feet apart with the new conditions? Many people having been vaccinated, so there might be new rules which we have to understand when it comes to social distancing. And is the school always checking the statements with the parents, those kind of contracts, those formal statements when it comes to online misusage, such as taking photos of other children, recording voices of children? These are very important. This is related to cyberbullying. So when these incidents occur, waivers can be sent to parents to sign. Are those waivers being updated? Is the school leadership still closely monitoring the well-being of its stakeholders? And we all know that few schools lose the momentum of serious procedures after a time of stability, when they think that everything is back to normal, so they start to loosen up with those rules and regulations. What practical steps are leaders take in their focus on values? And we all know that as we move forward into this fourth industrial revolution, when we are using more technology and more social media, we have to direct more focus on values. To what extent pedagogy is directed towards engaging all learners through different disciplines? And here, when we are speaking about school statement, we do not only mean academics is just part of the school statement. We have different disciplines as well. To what extent is leadership attending to activities that activate and inspire learners so that they give their full potential? And it's almost found in all school statements around the world when we speak about inspiring learners to discover and to give their full potential. Are schools by any means excluding learners, such as those with difficulties or those with behavior problems? Do schools have special plans for learners with severe behavior problems, such as refusal to learn or to attend classes? We have seen so many examples of this sort. Aggression, withdrawal, or even addictive behavior, or any other pattern that impedes safe presence and engagement. Do schools have special plans for learners with life-threatening illnesses? Are leaders planning to incorporate more staff training, especially online teaching and computer science basics? We know that most teachers and most school systems, if not all, have at least delivered the basics training. But regarding computer science basics, this is very essential, and I write about this and in the resources on my website when it comes to curriculum. Is the school organizing events to revive school spirit, such as camps, summits, and even virtually if there is a need to do so? Is the school fostering partnerships both locally and globally? Is the school connecting academic, social, and emotional factors? And here we can check one of the very good models that connects cognition, emotion, and behavior as the 3 types of engagement needed to assure performance and social emotional stability. It was provided by the Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development, the ASCD. I encourage you to check this out on ASCD webpage, because this virtual engagement framework, incorporating those 3 essential factors, is really helpful for teachers and leaders. Like always mentioned, schools' vision and mission maintain priority focus. So there are more points to focus on. Are leaders always checking home environments through surveys and indirect observations of children's performance? Now, home environments may not continue to be as helpful as it started with online learning, because, at the beginning there was such a great focus by parents, but now as we move forward, probably few parents got used to the practices, so they may not be following up with us the way they used to at the beginning of the pandemic. Are there searches for points or people of strength that can be utilized to leverage over all areas. And this is very important. It's very important to look at our assets, to really study all those points of power or people of power, because this is very helpful and this will help us accelerate. We all know how much we need to accelerate rather than just remediate. Are leaders continuing to create opportunities to grow? Are leaders still communicating value to all stakeholders without adding pressure of engagement? Because sometimes it does put pressure on stakeholders, and this is the least that stakeholders need. Are there mentorship programs provided? And this is extremely important because we do need mentorship programs, especially at this stage. We have gaps to fill, we have emotional concerns to address. Are there programs for career orientation, and are they regularly evaluated? And any decision that is to be made should be based on research, not just conjectures. So regularly evaluating our crisis management plans, and this crisis management plans, as a matter of fact, have been one of the strongest revelations to schools when they discovered that despite all their school improvement plans, most of them did not have a crisis management plan. And that was really a shock to so many schools. I hope that by this stage and after all what we have gone through, schools have a crisis management plan. Because a crisis management plan can ensure that there is less loss and more gain. To what extent are evaluation plans implemented to check and improve performance of certain groups, such as disadvantaged learners, and learners are at risk or dropout also, or even grade level repetition, refugees as well, and immigrants, because this category has been badly affected, such as the case in Germany with refugees, minorities, gifted and talented, or any other group that required special attention. Is coaching being implemented? Teacher-learner and learner-learner. It's not just teacher-learner, it's also learner-learner. And if not, is it at least being introduced and planned to be a protocol? And this is very important as we move into 2021, 2022. To what extent is computing education being fostered in the school? And is it tailored to the learners' age groups? Because that is also essential. We can think of computing education, but we have to tailor it to the age group and to the needs of the special community. It differs from a country to another. The level of readiness also is a major factor. Is there a clear plan for the upcoming new year for artificial intelligence, robotics, and blockchains? I know that this can be much advanced for some schools, but at least introduce it, at least put it into consideration. Are there updated policies regarding onboarding as schools plan for the next academic year, when teachers and staff are priorities in terms of protection and safety? And we know that most schools, if not all, will be in person. Arranging also for more community engagement can be very helpful. It can be the best trigger for the reinforcement of the school statement, of school vision, mission, objectives and values. The following, for example, can be inviting teachers, heads of departments, principals to exhibitions, even if it has to be done virtually at the beginning, arranging for assemblies as frequently as possible, activating schools' reward systems, and creating one if it's not available, and connecting those reward systems to each other across disciplines, creating feedback routines so that the feedback becomes embedded in the system, because feedback should not be just occasional. And this is one of the issues that schools really face and they have to address, because they do it occasionally. Considering what we have gone through, we really need to have feedback embedded in our system. Providing training to the staff when integrating academics with social emotional learning, because here we are not just talking about social emotional learning curriculum. Social emotional learning has to be integrated in every discipline in the school. It has to be part of it. Adopting mentoring or mentorship programs and positive psychology. Adopting quality assurance programs if the school does not have its own. They can consult anybody for quality assurance programs. So this was a quick overview of what schools can do to ensure alignment to its statement. As for the curriculum, now we mentioned in the previous episode academic achievements and losses. Having clear and well-designed plans of curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment can help in curbing losses and achieving gains. And more strategies regarding English language arts, mathematics, science, social study, physical education, and art, you can find them on my resources page on my website, www.orbitsdevelopment.com/resources. These are specifically designed for each subject, so they incorporate strategies that can make teaching more effective and naturally learning more achievable. So quick strategies for alignment to curriculum standards. And this can apply to off-site or on-site learning. New modes for teaching, incorporating the RL teaching methodologies. We already have worked on that in the past year and a half. But here it's important to say that technology can be optimized using different forms than the popular ones, selecting the right tool to use. For example, in case of kindergartners as well, it's important to personify, especially with in-person learning. For example, when we personify the mask and the sanitizer, either, for example, by colored hero photos, naming it, for example, good cop or strong policeman or superhero, anything that might appeal to those little children, like showing them that it is like a superhero or a good cop pushing the virus away, just keeping it into a child-friendly form. Strategic planning is essential when it comes to curriculum so that preparation and delivery are straight to the point and aligning with the standards and the basic guides. Learner engagement is essential, of course, and we always speak about that. And to achieve that, curiosity and stirring curiosity in learners paves the way towards more attainment. It all starts with curiosity and inquiry. We can't have a boring classroom and then expect achievement and learning. Agency also is highly encouraged, and this is a 21st century skill. Agency means the opportunity of the learner to select few of the materials or the resources. It might not easily match the teacher's interest sometimes or a preference, but trying it is really helpful, because here when you are giving children agency, then you are achieving the first element of learning, which is engagement. Social distancing, that does not affect instruction and interaction for learning, because we all know that learning itself is a social activity. And this is according to brain science. It is a social activity. Learning happens in a social environment. Within a social context, we have to make sure that we are teaching and learning at the same time. We are ensuring social distancing. For example, if we have laminated displays of content material to prevent damage when sanitized regularly. Unfortunately, we have been using lots of plastics and also material for masks, and this has not been good for the environment, but unfortunately, until now, we have no other alternative. And of course, minimizing the need to exchange material, especially, for example, when it comes to practice books, when we're doing peer work or the teacher correcting for the learner, exchanging those notebooks is a huge challenge. So it would definitely help when we find another strategy, such as, for example, doing as a whole class check, and the children themselves using any colored pencil to put little ticks or smiling faces, and the teacher can walk around and have a look at that. It's not easy, but it's the safest way. More emphasis continues to be put in certain matters that relate to the standards, especially with the enforced modes of teaching and assessments. And now we all know that we have to come out even with new methods of assessment. Is there enough feedback using the right tools that are best aligned with each assignment and task? And now it's the chance for us to be creative and innovative. Personally, I'm very excited about this, because now we are just coming out of the box. We are not keeping ourselves within the limits of what we considered as normal. We are getting out of the norms, thinking about different types of assessments for each assignment and task. And now we are given the authority to do so, because with the difficulties we faced with the regular testing due to COVID-19, we are now trying to find alternatives. Are all learning modes matching learning assignments and tasks? Because every assignment and every task requires a different learning mode. And when we are experimenting that within our classrooms, and we are discussing that later with our teacher peers, we can really find the best ways to suit our classes, assignments, and tasks. To what extent is curiosity being integrated in learning, aligning with the assignment and tasks? And again, it differs from a subject to another. And this makes it even more interesting. To what extent are digital strategies being built in properly to match assignments and tasks? And the goal here is to build digital competencies. Digital competencies are basics for both teachers and learners. So here we are, by embedding those digital strategies and updating them, because we know that they are fast growing and fast evolving, then we are always on track building those digital competencies. Our curriculum teams utilizing certain forms and charts to ensure the connections between all subjects, because sometimes certain subjects are overlooked or neglected, and this definitely affects the entire learning, especially in my perspective, when I believe that learning is not related just to school subjects. So here, when we are connecting all these subjects, we are coming out with new visions of a new way of learning. And the only way we can do that is by connecting all the subjects. And we cannot do this individually. We have to do that in teams through discussions and kind of pipelines between teachers and head of departments and leaders. Our curriculum teams re-identifying their main and supporting standards at the end of this academic year, trying to fill the remaining gaps and start building for more robust curriculum structures. And like I said, now we have to go both ways. We have to do remediation, but we have to do acceleration. Otherwise, we will be so much behind. Our curriculum teams evaluating the alignment of their standards with their resources and formative assessment tools in preparation for the upcoming year, because what a school can upgrade might not be able to be upgraded in another school. And this is very essential. We have to really look at our own resources and what we can do. Are certain skills such as expressing, connecting, and questioning always embedded through all subjects and sessions? And that's important, because I've noticed that in the schools I've been in, that sometimes certain subjects would do more questioning, other subjects might do more connecting. Well, expressing, connecting, and questioning need to be in every single subject, in every single class, and every single session. Are there self-paced courses required from senior grades, those high school levels, to connect to their academics and projection of an adult professional life? And this is very important, because again, we have to link to our real life, to our real world, and to I don't like to use the word marketplace when we speak about learning and education, but this is how it is in the real world. Will they be equipped with what they need? Will they be exposed to a new world that is totally different from a school? Are there plans to support vocational training? And that's extremely important, and this, in my opinion, should start in very early years, in the 7th and 8th grade. And if this is available, can we start that as a development step for the upcoming year? How can we do that? How can we incorporate vocational training? And I know that in some countries vocational training is not only available, but it's also mandatory. But in some other countries across the world, they do vocational training in the latest years of high school. And this actually determines later the economy and industries. That's very important to start really thinking about and evaluating within our schools. If it's not available, we can prepare it for next year. The aim, when we think about curriculum, is deep learning. And what we mean by that is giving learners the long life mastery of objectives and skills, the long life mastery. They are not learning only for today. The learners are not learning only for those test days. They are learning to water this skill from an early stage as they move into the university and into the workplace. It is crucial not to just also cover titles. Main skills such as problem solving, critical thinking should not be skipped under any circumstance. And I know that this happens in so many schools. In so many schools, they are busy doing practice pages, the regular exercises. And unfortunately, a few other schools, because I've seen that, a few other schools, they might skip that problem solving because it will naturally consume time. But we all know that this is what the learners need to acquire the necessary skills. And that's important here. Checking every subject matter, every teacher, ensuring that there is problem solving, critical thinking in every single session. Adjusting to time constraints is also necessary to ensure that all the standards are covered. Now, we know that not every single standard is essential, and we have discovered that. I've been saying this for a long time, for years, but we've discovered that during COVID, when we had to redesign the standards to fit the time that we had. But to make the process easier and more guaranteed to achieve the target, 3 categories can be classified, like the main category or the core, an additional one if you want to add, and even an extra one. And here you are upgrading as per need, as per progress. What suits this class might not suit the other. What suits this subject might not suit the other. This is how learning should be like. It should be natural, flowing. And this leaves the opportunity for more learning to happen. So it's up to us to experience with our learners what is best for them, but keeping in mind that we are targeting progress. We don't want to stay in the same level, within the same status. We have to move forward. Intervention packages can be provided for students as well who are struggling with learning loss, learning difficulties, and special needs, and that's essential. Many schools have been doing that, but giving those packages and working out all those challenges to see what to fill in and to close every gap is essential. So while we have those goals and objectives when we prepare our lesson plans, for example, when we say, I can learn to, I can plan to, I can create, I can design, and here I'm not saying the teacher will or the teacher can, like we usually have in our teacher edition books. No, I'm saying learning goals is student-centered, is learner-centered. And this is what the learners can say at the beginning of the session. But at the same time, this should evolve into learning outcomes or criteria. Now I know that. Now I know why. Now I know how. Now I know when. And this is metacognitive learning. It's related to reflective learning, metacognitive learning, and this is very helpful. When we are able to move from learning goals into learning outcomes or learning objectives into learning criteria, then we are able to achieve deep learning and the long life mastery that I have just mentioned. Curriculum has been redesigned. There are a few other questions that we can ask. Are teachers monitoring note-taking, their learners and their note-taking as well? Because not only learners take notes, also teachers take notes. And this might be time-consuming, but it is worth the effort because it keeps those fundamental notes always seen and therefore always handled, always addressed. Are the right types of digital resources being used to achieve learning goals, and are they being upgraded within the same theme, thematically? Because now we all know that the digital resources, especially in the past year and a half with the surge of COVID, technology has doubled the effort to create more apps and more platforms. So now we have more resources and we have more varieties of the same type of platform or the same type of resource. So here, which one are we choosing to fit our learning goals and learning outcomes? Are modifications being done on a weekly and daily basis? One, necessary, because no size fits all, we know that. But are we doing this on a weekly and even daily basis? Are teachers monitoring their higher order thinking skills utilized every day? And I don't mean here the learners or higher order thinking skills. I mean the teachers' higher order thinking skills. Training teachers to handle this newly revised curriculum and the new modes for teaching is necessary, because there can be no learning gains without trained teachers. Teachers are the facilitators. They are the catalyst to make this learning gain and to curb the learning loss. Maintaining a continuous updating process for the situation is needed through this stage. And now, luckily, this is probably one of the factors that needs the least attention from us, because we are very grateful that it is kind of stable. It is much better than the past months. Is the school leadership doing checkpoints to evaluate the curriculum alignment, such as backward thinking? And this needs to be done continuously, especially now as we have moved from the stage of chaos to the stage of stability. Now we have to move into a stage of acceleration and progress. Our leaders and supervisors conducting class visits, those even virtual class visits regularly, because I've noticed this in the schools I've been in. This hasn't been happening very much. Regular class visits, not to monitor the teacher, but to monitor the learning that is taking place and giving feedback to the teachers. This is fundamental because giving positive feedback, constructive feedback to teachers will help tremendously, especially for the new teachers. Our leaders conducting gap analysis, leaders and teachers conducting gap analysis. Our leaders working on school improvement plans that fully support scaffolding. So sometimes in some school improvement plans, there is a certain path and highly focused on, while the other path is not, kind of neglected. And here in our school improvement plans, we have to pay attention to every single tier, because this will determine our results. Our leaders accountably discussing, and I repeat that, accountably discussing with academic professionals to provide utmost support in terms of resources. Here we have to be very authentic and genuine in the way we address our issues. Speaking about the digital age, we all know that we have moved from education 3.0 through 4.0, and now computational thinking is so important in teaching and learning. And computational thinking can be integrated in all subjects and in very simple ways. And there is a huge misunderstanding that only teachers who are proficient in technology or who teach technology or IT have to be involved in computational thinking. This is not right. Computational thinking has to be part in every subject, and training for the basic levels is enough for the non-IT teachers. So that's not an excuse, and leaders have to check. This is part of being of alignment to standards and to curriculum as well. And there are lots of very helpful books about computational artifacts and how to experience that. One of them is Rev.Up Robotics, Real-World Computational Thinking in the K-8 Classroom. You can check that. This is very helpful because it relates to real-life learning. It's not only theoretical. Is school providing enough reading activity, such as accelerated readers programs to learners of all levels? We all know the importance of reading and how it affects all other subjects. And we all know that during COVID, huge gaps were noted in all school systems around the world. So now it's time to really focus on reading and to incorporate all those reading programs that can help match with the need of every learner and at every level. Is school implementing enough writing activities? And that has been tremendously affected by the pandemic, especially during online learning. We have been focusing more on covering standards, but I know that many of you agree with me. Reading and writing are the basics. When learners write throughout this paragraph, you have everything that you need. You have the grammar, you have the spelling, you have whatever that is available in the textbooks. It can be there within those 6 to 8 lines or 15 to 30 lines. So focusing on reading and writing is tremendously helpful. Are there feedback loops that can guide teaching and learning integrated disciplines, and preferably STEAM, adding arts to it, STEAM, that can save us, fill in these gaps and accelerate learning, because it's science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. So while there are certain ways to implement STEAM and to implement STEAM education in schools, it might take effort at the beginning, but it is very helpful in the long run, and it is really needed now at this stage. 21st century learning, 2021, post-COVID, and we all know that we have the Sustainability Development Goals 2030. We have to start really embedding STEAM in our schools. Are the curriculum departments incorporating problem-based activities as much as possible, whether it's in-person or hybrid learning? Does the curriculum instruction model offer take into consideration attention functions? And we all know how attention is essential in learning, and that's part of brain science. So the first factor that affects learning is attention, and how to draw the attention of learners. We can have really well-designed plans for that for the upcoming year. Are there themes, or are the themes well distributed to suit world events for more effective outcomes integration? And I will be having more videos on my YouTube channel regarding all of what I've been saying. In this episode, I have Acts of Kind Attention, and I invite you to check it out. It does incorporate those world events and international days because these are those global concerns discussed within the school community, and this is how we can make our teaching and learning comprehensive. This is how we are incorporating social sciences, cultures, environmental science to our activities. So we are not conducting those activities only for entertainment, but also for educational purposes. Are the curriculum departments creating meaningful learning experiences that start first with teachers and then unfold to learners? Because when you want your learners to be engaged, first you have to engage your teachers. Teachers are those people who are with the learners in the class, whether in person or hybrid. You cannot expect the teacher to engage the learner if the teacher is not engaged, is not fully excited about what she's doing. So, coming to an end here, to the end of this long episode, but a very comprehensive one about school statement and curriculum, and these are two main factors in education in our school communities. Challenges will not disappear, but they have been certainly reduced as we are learning to navigate through the aftermath of this pandemic, and as we strive to develop towards this fourth industrial revolution, Education 4.0. So ending with an open-ended question as usual for all of us to ponder. How will alignment of both statement and curriculum best serve our communities? In other words, how will they serve to promote autonomy instead of compliance?